Be honest with yourself for one breath. Are you exhausted by the feeling that your thoughts are loud, but your life is somehow on mute? That you can scroll for hours and still miss the single message that would actually change your day? Do you keep getting flashes of perfect timing, followed by a fog that makes you second guess until the moment passes? If that is you, hear this clearly. The reason this found you now is that a door inside your attention just moved from locked to ajar. Your mind has been working at the surface bandwidth where everything competes, but something deeper just clicked, and the signal beneath the noise is starting to bleed through. Most people ignore this moment because it does not announce itself with fireworks. It arrives as a clean quiet that feels unfamiliar. A sense that time has a little extra room in it, a thread of knowing that shows up half a second before the words. You will be tempted to explain it away as coincidence or mood. Do not. This is what it feels like when your perception upgrades from single channel to stereo. When the field under your thoughts begins to share information instead of forcing you to guess. The pain you have carried is not a lack of effort. It is the cost of running a powerful instrument without the settings that let it tune. You push harder and achieve more and still feel uncoordinated inside, like a dancer landing every step on paper while the music is playing in another room. Quantum consciousness is a heavy phrase that can be misused, so let us put it in simple terms. Your experience is not only what your eyes report. It is the interaction between what you notice and what the world becomes when you notice it. When attention sharpens and steadies, reality stops acting like a stranger and starts behaving like a partner. Patterns appear where you used to see accidents. Hints repeat until they become instructions. The exact person shows up within hours of the exact decision you finally allowed yourself to make. If that description feels like a memory of your best days, good. Those days were not random. They were previews. Today is about making that state deliberate. The truth is, you do not need more motivation. You need a way to lower the static so your natural intelligence can do what it already knows how to do. You have felt this during the breath before sleep, when images gather behind closed eyes, during the pause before you speak when the right sentence slides into place, during the instant your hands move to catch a falling glass and succeed without thinking. That is the channel we are opening on purpose. This message is not here to sell you wonder. It is here to hand you a method, because unlocked states are useless if you cannot re-enter them when it counts. In the next minutes, you will learn a simple sequence that teaches your awareness to hold steady long enough for the deeper signal to arrive. You will not be asked to adopt a belief or argue with your doubt. Doubt can sit beside you and watch, because this is about experience that repeats. If part of you is afraid that change means losing yourself, listen closely. You do not become a different person when this door opens. You become the person you are when you stop bracing. You do not abandon logic. You give logic better inputs. You do not force outcomes. You align with a timing that has been trying to include you. If your life has felt like an almost, this is why. You were close enough to sense the current and far enough to mistrust it. So you swam against yourself and called it discipline. That chapter ends here. From this moment forward, you will practice a cleaner attention, the kind that turns scattered hours into a track you can actually run on. By the end of this video, you will know what to do with the quiet that just entered the room. You will recognize the outlines of the new map that is forming under your day, and you will have one repeatable way to return to this state before decisions, before conversations, before you spend the next month on a path you already know does not fit. If you are ready, breathe once like you mean it and let the mind admit what the body already knows. Something just turned on. Do not ignore it. What just turned on is not a superpower. It is the removal of a filter that used to blur the edges between you and the world. Think of how a room looks when a window is wiped clean. The furniture has not moved, and yet everything is easier to navigate. Quantum consciousness is simply that clarity applied to moments before they harden into outcomes. Your attention is no longer a flashlight that tires your hand. It is becoming a lens that gathers light until the outline of what matters comes forward on its own. The reason this matters is practical. When your attention steadies, the world stops having to shout. Subtle cues become legible. Timing becomes cooperative. You start noticing that reality answers in proportion to the quality of your noticing. This sounds grand until you remember how ordinary it already is. You have felt it in conversations that suddenly become honest when you relax 1 inch. You have felt it when a plan comes together in hours because you stopped rehearsing and started listening. You have felt it in the way a room reveals who is open and who is closed before anyone says a word. What you usually call a hunch is not a lottery ticket. It is a data stream that your nervous system is built to read once the static lowers. The part of you that wants proof is welcome here. Proof is what happens when you treat a repeat like a signal and then act gently and watch what follows. The universe does not need you to be certain. It asks you to be available. Availability feels like the mind loosening its grip just enough for a second kind of information to arrive. Often it shows up as relief before results. Relief when you decide not to force a call. Relief when you tell one clean truth instead of 10 careful explanations. Relief when you change the pace by a breath and discover that everything you were chasing is now walking toward you. Relief is not laziness, it is accuracy returning. The old strategy was control, and it got you far enough to survive. The new strategy is coherence, and it will get you where survival cannot take you. Coherence means that what you are sensing on the inside and what you are choosing on the outside finally say the same thing. The mind is brilliant at writing reasons after the fact. Let it do that, but first let the body vote. The body votes through breath, posture, and a widening of attention that does not feel like effort. You will feel the vote when your exhale lengthens on its own as you consider one option and tightens when you consider another. You will feel it when your spine stacks easily around a choice and collapses around a compromise. You will feel it when your gaze softens and takes in more of the room because you are no longer bracing for impact. This is not mysticism. It is physiology becoming honest. When you respect these signals for a week, you will have more data than any argument could provide. There is also a relationship with time that begins to change once the door opens. Before, you waited for evidence and then tried to catch up. Now you meet evidence halfway by preparing your state before the evidence arrives. It looks like pausing for one breath at life's hinges and letting a small silence clear space for the finer cues to surface. It looks like choosing the action that leaves you quieter 10 minutes later, rather than the one that earns you applause for a moment and exhaustion for the rest of the day. It looks like noticing that the right book is always within reach once you stop insisting that it must come with a sign on the cover. Synchrony is not luck. It is what happens when your receiver is on and steady. The phrase observer effect is often thrown around without care. Here is the version that matters to your life. What you bring steady attention to, you change. You change it first by how you move inside the moment. Then the moment changes how it meets you. When you greet a conversation with a posture that says, "I am here and I am not performing," the other person's nervous system registers the difference and options appear that were not available under tension. When you begin a task with presence rather than resentment, the path through it reveals itself faster because your perception is fed by all the small signals that resentment would have blinded. If this feels like a lot to hold, remember that states teach faster than theories. You do not have to memorize a map. You will gather a few reliable switches and you will flip them before decisions and before the day can take your attention hostage. You will anchor yourself with one sentence spoken out loud to claim the quality of attention you intend to carry. You will learn where to rest your focus inside your own head so that thoughts keep moving and yet stop dragging you behind them. You will discover a short cadence of breath that tells the body the emergency is over so that the deeper signal can walk in. This is the curriculum, and it is kinder than you think because it respects your time. In the next section, you will learn the exact way to set these switches in under 2 minutes so that the unlocked state you are tasting right now becomes something you can re-enter on purpose before you spend another hour on a path you already know is not yours. Here is the method, and it will take less than 2 minutes once you know the feel of it. Begin by sitting in a way your spine can be tall without force, and let your face soften so the muscles around the eyes are not holding the day, Allow one unhurried exhale to leave your body as if you were setting a heavy bag down, and let the next inhale arrive on its own. Then place your attention lightly in the space behind your forehead, a few fingers back from the brow as if you were listening from there instead of from your ears, and do not chase a sensation because none is required. Simply rest attention there while you breathe in a quiet rhythm that favors the out-breath by a beat, short in and a little longer out. Within a few cycles, your nervous system hears that there is no emergency and stands down, and you will notice that thoughts keep moving but stop dragging you behind them. Keep this light focus and invite a small pocket of silence around your breath by letting the end of the exhale linger for a heartbeat before the inhale returns. Not a held breath, just a breath that is in no hurry to come back. In that pause, you will feel the room become slightly more legible, as if a fogged pane had been wiped. Now, speak one sentence under your breath to claim the quality you intend to carry. Choose language that is plain and present tense. I am steady and available to what matters, or I give attention that makes timing cooperate, or another phrase that fits. Speak it like a calendar note, not a charm, and let your jaw stay easy so the sentence lands in the body rather than ricocheting around the mind. Keep the focus behind the brow while you look at the space in front of you and notice that the scene has not changed, and yet you feel closer to it. This is the switch you are learning to flip on purpose. A simple alignment of breath, attention, and silence that lowers static until the finer data can arrive. Use this setting to meet the day's hinges and watch what changes. Before you open a message that carries weight, run 3 cycles of the slow exhale while resting at the brow, and then ask the quickest, honest question: what action will leave me quieter in 10 minutes? The answer will be simple and close, and when you act on it, you will feel a wave of relief that arrives before any result. Relief is the body's way of stamping approved on the state you just chose before a conversation that matters. Run the same cadence and keep a thin thread of focus behind the brow while the other person speaks. You will hear intention under words, and timing will present itself for the one sentence that moves the whole exchange forward before work that resists. You set the switch and begin with the smallest passage that has a clear edge. Minute by minute, the fog lifts, because scattered attention is no longer writing the story. If you feel yourself reaching for the old habit of control, the over-checking and refreshing that used to stand in for certainty, take one slow exhale and remember that control was a survival tool, while coherence is a navigation tool. The first tightens and the second widens. Return to the brow, return to the longer out-breath, return to the single sentence that explains who you are being this hour, and let the body vote for accuracy again. Expect your mind to ask for spectacle and learn instead to respect small, measurable shifts. You finish an action and have more energy than when you began. You speak one clean truth and the room either welcomes you or reveals itself, and both outcomes save you time. You notice a repeat and treat it as a pointer rather than a novelty, and the path begins to cooperate. This is not pretending that everything is a sign. It is allowing the receiver to remain on long enough that real signals can accumulate into direction. The map appears as you move, and your job is to keep the instrument tuned so that movement remains accurate. If you lose the thread at noon, you can restart at noon. If you forget for a day, you can restart tomorrow. States teach faster than theories, and repetition builds a groove until the setting holds without being performed. A good sign that you are holding it is that relief continues to arrive before results, and decisions feel like clicks rather than wrestles. Another sign is that you no longer audition for rooms that only respond to your performance, and instead show up where your quiet is read correctly. Before sleep, run the sequence once more, because the corridor between waking and dreams is a natural amplifier of this clarity. Carry the thin thread of attention as you drift, and notice how images gather without your eyes. The purpose is not to chase visions, but to let the nervous system consolidate the unlocked setting while you rest, so that morning begins above the waterline. The next day, repeat the same 2-minute opening before you touch your phone, and watch how your timing fits you like clothing that was cut to measure. This is how unlocked states stop being one-day wonders and start becoming your baseline. You are not summoning anything exotic. You are removing noise until what is true can reach you. And once it does, your job is simply to stay available and keep walking. The first thing you will notice as you keep the state is that life begins to answer with a kinder accuracy. And the second is that the old reflexes arrive to negotiate you back into the narrow corridor where you used to live. Let them talk and keep the setting. The reflex will say you are imagining patterns and demand permission to check 10 more times before you act. The setting will show that relief arrives the instant you take the smallest clean step. That contrast is your measurement. You do not need philosophy when evidence keeps shaking your hand. Begin to treat relief as a compass and energy as currency. Choices that belong to you return energy even when they ask for effort. Choices that do not belong to you spend your energy before the result and leave you explaining yourself to yourself afterward. The unlocked mind does not remove effort. It removes waste. This is how you tell the difference in real hours rather than in slogans. Notice how relationships behave when you bring the unlocked state into the room. Some bonds deepen quickly because the other nervous system recognizes steadiness and answers with steadiness. Others fray because they were tied to your performance rather than your person. Do not panic when a tie reveals itself this way. You are not losing support. You are discovering which connections can carry the weight of your clarity. Speak fewer words and let timing do more work. When you feel the urge to over-explain, return to the brow and the longer out-breath and choose the single sentence that would still be true if it were printed tomorrow. The quieter you become inside, the more readable you are to the people who can help, and the less edible you are to the situations that used to feed on your uncertainty. Work also changes texture under this light. Tasks that were sticky become workable because you are entering them with presence rather than resentment. Start a difficult project by setting the switch and touching the one edge that is undeniably real. The paragraph you can write, the call you can place, the plan you can draft for 10 minutes, and let momentum grow from truth rather than from pressure. When you catch the old habit of refreshing for proof, smile and translate the urge. Proof is your mind asking for safety. Give it safety by resetting state, not by feeding the slot machine of reassurance. You are training a receiver, not playing a game of chance. Synchrony will increase as the receiver stabilizes, and you will be tempted to crown every repeat as destiny. Resist theatrics. Destiny is a heavy word for what is often a simple invitation to move one step. Treat repeats as pointers. Look, move, measure by relief and adjust. The more you practice, the more you will trust the rhythm where small, accurate moves compound into outcomes that look like luck from the outside and like arithmetic from the inside. Expect silence to visit between waves of clarity. The absence of signal is not abandonment, it is integration. In silence, keep the light focus and the easier breath, and bring your attention to what is already in motion, rather than hunting for new signs. Often the next instruction is to finish what you started. Completion is a frequency. It strengthens the field around you so that future opportunities recognize you as someone who can carry them. If resistance escalates, it will do so with believable costumes. It will borrow the voice of responsibility and suggest that your steadiness is selfish. It will borrow urgency and insist that you must decide while braced. Decline both loans. Responsible choices feel grounded, not frantic. Real urgency sharpens speech without shrinking awareness. Let your body prove the difference by voting again with breath and posture. You are not avoiding life. You are refusing to be rushed out of alignment. There will be days when you slip and spend an hour in old weather. The win is not to avoid slipping forever. The win is to shorten the distance between forgetting and remembering. The moment you notice you are lost inside noise, do not negotiate. Return to the 2-minute sequence and let the room come back into focus. The unlocked state is generous. It does not punish you for leaving. It is always where you left it. Keep a private ledger for a week, not of achievements, but of returns. Note where relief preceded results, where a single honest sentence changed a room, where saying no returned a morning to you, where a repeat became a pointer and then a door. This ledger trains the rational mind to trust the pattern the body already knows. It also disarms the part of you that thinks growth must be spectacular to be real. The reality is simpler and better. Quantum shifts are often experienced as ordinary days that stop leaking. Meals are eaten in peace. Work is done in fewer passes. Sleep remembers you. People who needed you confused begin to call less. People who benefit from your clarity begin to call more. That is the environment of the unlocked mind. It is not about being special. It is about being accurate enough that life can find you. Hold the setting through kindness rather than force. Kindness toward your own pacing. Kindness toward the part of you that still wants to check the door twice. Kindness toward the world as it learns the new signal you are broadcasting. In the next section, you will close this loop with a vow small enough to keep and strong enough to hold the door open on busy days, so that this unlocked state becomes your default, rather than a beautiful story you tell yourself once and then forget. You do not need a grand finale to make this real. You need one vow you can keep when the day is loud, one sentence that turns the switch even when your hands shake. Let it be this in your own words. When the noise rises, I return to breath. I rest attention behind the brow. I allow a small silence, and I move in the direction that leaves me quieter 10 minutes later. Speak it now in a steady voice, as if you were confirming a meeting with yourself. Feel how your body settles when you promise something it can actually deliver. This is how unlocked states become baselines, not by chasing perfect days, but by repeating a humane sequence often enough that your system begins to prefer it. Expect your world to reorganize around this preference. The people who are nourished by your accuracy will find you faster. The habits that were renting space in your head will lose their deposit. The opportunities that match your timing will show up looking ordinary and right on time. Let ordinary be the victory. The mind will request fireworks. Give it evidence instead. Evidence that relief arrives before outcomes when you set the state. Evidence that conversations become transparent when you listen from behind the face. Evidence that decisions turn into clicks rather than wrestles when you ask which path returns energy instead of applause. Keep a simple memory of today. There was a moment when something in you turned on and the room came into focus without changing. That moment is the reference image. You can return to it at a red light, in a doorway, before you answer a call. You can rebuild it in 2 minutes when you have 2 minutes and in 20 seconds when you do not. It is yours because it is a function of how you pay attention, not a gift from a mood that might leave. If you forget, you have not failed. You have an invitation to remember. If you slip, you have not lost ground. You have an opportunity to shorten the distance between noticing and resetting. This is what maturity feels like in consciousness. Not a constant high, but a reliable return. Leave this video with a small public act that the old you would have postponed. Send the message, close the tab that leaks your hours, begin the page you have been delaying, step outside, and breathe 3 slow cycles while you look at a sky that was always broadcasting and that you can finally hear. Then move quietly and let time meet you halfway. You do not have to become someone else. You have to stop confusing noise with signal. The door that opened today is not going anywhere. The handle is on your side. Keep your hand on it each time the world blurs, and it will open again and again until the unlocked state you glimpsed becomes the place you live from rather than a place you visit. That is how a life changes. Not through force, but through faithful settings that make accuracy ordinary.